Hello, everyone. Before we take a look at this short read timeline about how technology has changed communication, I want you to remember that you're on the lookout for an object, a type of communication that you have never used before. Because once this video is finished, you have two jobs. You're going to send me that message telling me about that one form of communication you have not ever used, and then you're going to ask your family a few questions about these forms of communication and respond in the discussion post. So let's go ahead and get started. The title of this again is How Technology Has Changed Communication. So imagine it's 1866 and your family has just arrived in Houston, Texas after a long trip by ship. Your grandmother in New York City is anxious to hear from you. So you pull out paper, a pen, and ink. You dip the pen nib in ink and write a letter by hand. You take it to the post office. It will travel on a ship that's leaving for New York City at the end of the week. And about 2,300 miles and weeks later, your letter will reach your grandmother. Fast forward to the present. Your family has just arrived in Houston. You borrow your mom's cell phone and text, "We made it," to your grandmother in New York City, along with a photo of the Houston skyline. She gets your message almost instantly and texts back, "Have fun. See you next week." So this was the introduction to the timeline that we're going to take a look at. So right here it says Timeline of Communications Technology. This timeline shows when important communication devices became popular in the United States. All right, so this is what you're going to keep an eye out for. You're looking for one type of communication device that you have never used, because you're going to tell me what it is, you're going to tell me when it became popular, and you're going to tell me what it allows people to do. So let's start at the beginning in the 1850s with the telegraph. It sent messages long distances over wires. Telegraph operators tapped out messages in Morse code, a system of dots and dashes that stand for letters. In the 1860s was when the typewriter became popular. Before the typewriter, people wrote letters and other documents by hand. The typewriter made writing a book or other lengthy publication much faster. In the 1870s was when the telephone became popular. The telephone has been called the greatest invention of the 19th century. People no longer had to be in the same room to talk to one another. In the 1920s, everyone wanted a radio for their living room. Families gathered around it to hear a news or entertainment broadcast. And then in the 1950s, after television was invented, people could see events as they happened. Television brought people together to witness important moments in history. In the 1970s is when personal computers became popular. They changed the way people work by allowing users to store and share information over computer networks. In the 1980s, the first mobile phones allowed people to talk on the go. Starting in the 1990s, mobile phones, now known as cell or cellular phones, let people text too. On to the 1990s, when the World Wide Web came along, it was like a giant electronic information library. Later, it grew to include online stores, cat videos, and just about anything else imaginable. Also in the 1990s was when email became popular, which is short for electronic mail. It's a tool for sending documents and photos from computer to computer. It's a fast, easy way to correspond with people anywhere in the world. In the 2000s, smartphones became popular. They are mini computers that allow users to email, search for information, buy things, listen to music, take photos and videos, and yes, make phone calls. Here we are in the 2010s now. It says that people use social media to connect and communicate. Through blogs, websites, and apps, people share photos and information about their lives. Now that you've heard and seen about different forms of communication, different devices that have existed over time, your job now is to pick one of these devices that you have never used, figure out when it became popular by looking at the years on the timeline, and also take a look back at the text so that you can tell me what they allow people to do. If you have questions about this, let me know. After you do this, make sure that you move on to the questions in the last video so that you can talk to your family about when they started using these different forms of communication.